the Constant had always been a place of relentless, bizarre desolation. For Wilson P. Hicksbury, gentleman scientist, and his disparate band of survivors, the pyromaniac Willow, the mighty Wolfgang, the logical but abrasive WX-78, and the learned Wickerbottom, it was a daily struggle against hunger, shadowy beasts, and the subtle decay of their own minds. They had built their fragile camp in a perpetually twilight forest, a haven of cobbled-together ingenuity against the encroaching dread. But recently, the Constant had become stranger. It began with anomalies. Not the usual anomalies of sentient trees or rock lobsters, but things that felt utterly alien even to this alien world. A shard of impossibly vibrant crimson metal, pulsating with a faint, rhythmic hum, discovered by Wolfgang after he'd felled a particularly stubborn evergreen. A peculiar circuit board, its traces glowing faintly with an electric blue light, unearthed by Wilson near a freshly plowed farm plot. Wickerbottom had found fragmented schematics, etched onto a material that felt like hardened plastic, depicting figures in brightly colored, armored suits. It's illogical, WX-78 had droned, prodding the circuit board with an articulated finger. These materials are not native to this biome, nor any known dimension. Data is insufficient. Nonsense, WX, Wickerbottom corrected, her spectacles glinting in the firelight. It merely signifies an external influence. A modification, if you will, to the fabric of our reality. She pointed to a symbol on the schematic. This repeating motif, a lightning bolt. It appears to be a source of incredible, focused energy. Their theories were soon put to the test. One particularly gloomy afternoon, as Willow was tending to the saplings, a group of figures shimmered into existence near the edge of their camp. They weren't spiders, or hounds, or even terrorbeaks. These were hulking, humanoid creatures made of dull gray rock, their faces featureless save for two glowing red eyes. They moved with an unsettling, jerky gait. Putties, Willow shrieked, inexplicably knowing the name, even as she instinctively reached for her lighter. They're attacking. The fight was clumsy and desperate. Wolfgang swung his trusty ham bat, shattering chunks of the rock creatures. Wilson deployed his trusty science machine, the spikes on his football helmet doing more damage than usual. WX-78 fired a stream of bolts from his electrical capacity, overloading some of the putties. Wickerbottom summoned a flock of birds, dive-bombing and pecking at their stone skin. They were surprisingly durable, but eventually, the survivors prevailed, leaving behind only strange, coarse dust and a few more glowing shards. They just appeared, Wilson gasped, wiping sweat from his brow. From nowhere, like a glitch in the world. A glitch with a purpose, Wickerbottom mused, sifting through the dust. These are not creatures of chaos or hunger. They are soldiers, sent by something. The concept of an enemy with a goal, beyond mere predation, was a chilling thought. But more importantly, the glowing shards and circuit boards found after the fight, combined with their earlier discoveries, started to form a coherent pattern in Wickerbottom's mind. I believe, she announced one evening, unrolling a grand schematic on the ground, weighted down by rocks, that these artifacts are not random. They are components for a Ranger Nexus. The drawing depicted a monolithic structure, intricate with glowing conduits and crystalline power cores, far beyond anything they'd ever attempted. It promised the ability to harness the strange energies and create the armored suits and even larger, mechanical beasts that the fragmented schematics hinted at. A machine to make fancy clothes. WX-78 scoffed. Inefficient. I already have superior plating. Not just clothes, WX, Wilson corrected, his scientific curiosity alight. Armor. Power. The very thing that those putties were trying to prevent us from accessing. The idea was daunting. Building the Ranger Nexus would require unprecedented amounts of metal, rare gems, and arcane energies. They would need gold, gears from clockwork monstrosities, an unheard of quantity of cut stone, and a new element Wickerbottom had dubbed Morphin ore, a shimmering, multicolored mineral found in the deepest, most treacherous caves. The group, however, was united by a newfound sense of purpose. Survival was no longer just about enduring, it was about fighting back, on a new playing field. Wolfgang relished the idea of immense power. Willow, her pyromania tempered by a strategic edge, saw new ways to set things gloriously ablaze. Wilson, ever the innovator, yearned to understand the technology. WX-78, despite his initial skepticism, found the idea of enhanced combat capabilities intriguing. Wickerbottom, of course, was driven by the sheer intellectual challenge. They began to gather. They fought clockwork knights for gears, delved into the terrifying darkness of the caves for morphin ore, and risked their sanity against shadow creatures to retrieve powerful nightmare fuel for the energy conduits. Their base, once a collection of haphazard shelters, began to expand, becoming more fortified, driven by the common goal. Months blurred into a relentless cycle of resource gathering, crafting, and defending their growing horde from the increasingly frequent, putty patrols, and even stranger, small, grotesque, monster of the week, scouts. They learned to fight them with their conventional tools, but each encounter reinforced the desperate need for the Nexus. Finally, the Ranger Nexus stood complete. It was a marvel of salvaged Don't Starve tech and alien influence. A frame of perfectly cut stone and carved wood held shimmering panels of morphin ore, crisscrossed by glowing pipelines of nightmare fuel. At its core hummed a large, crystalline sphere of pure, concentrated energy. It pulsed with a vibrant, otherworldly light that pushed back the encroaching darkness. "All right," Wickerbottom announced, adjusting her spectacles. "According to the fragments, one must present themselves to the Nexus, focus their intent, and, well, morph." Wilson, as the de facto leader and the one who understood the science best, volunteered. He stepped onto the central platform, the light from the core washing over him. He felt a surge of energy, a humming vibration that resonated deep within his bones, banishing the usual constant-induced anxieties. He focused on the schematics, the image of the Red Ranger suit burned into his mind. A blinding flash of crimson light enveloped him. The air crackled with power. When it subsided, Wilson stood transformed. Gone were his tweed coat and scruffy beard. In their place was a sleek, form-fitting suit of crimson and white armor, emblazoned with the lightning bolt symbol on the chest. His helmet, while clearly a Ranger design, seemed to incorporate elements of a deer skull, giving it a uniquely Don't Starve Gothic touch. "By Jove," he exclaimed, his voice slightly distorted by the helmet. "I feel invigorated. My muscles, my reflexes. And my beard, it feels perfectly contained." The others gasped. Wolfgang let out a roar of approval. Wex 78 emitted a rare, affirmative, chirp. Willow just grinned, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. One by one, they stepped into the Nexus. Willow became the Pink Ranger, her suit sleek and adorned with subtle, thorn-like patterns. Wolfgang became the Black Ranger, his armor robust and powerful, reminiscent of an armored bear. Wex 78, the Blue Ranger, integrated seamlessly with the tech, his metallic form enhanced by glowing circuits and additional plating. Wickerbottom, the Yellow Ranger, donned a suit that emphasized agility and strategic access points for data. Their individual Ranger forms were unique, blending the heroic aesthetic with the survivalist grit of the Constant. The suits were scuffed, some panels made from hardened leather or woven reeds, but imbued with an undeniable power. They tested their new abilities. Wilson could unleash energy blasts. Willow could conjure controlled bursts of flame far more potent than her lighter. Wolfgang's strength was phenomenal, allowing him to shatter boulders with a punch. Wex 78 could interface with and control stray electrical currents. Wickerbottom could manifest energy shields and analyze enemy weaknesses with uncanny speed. Their sanity felt stable, anchored by the morphing grid. But the Nexus wasn't done. The blueprints also showed Zords. Massive, piloted machines. This was an even greater undertaking. They needed colossal amounts of resources. Living wood from ancient guardians, the tough plating of a rock lobster colony, enough gold to make a statue, and strange, luminous crystals found only in the deepest abysses of the caves. Their need became urgent when a massive, grotesque creature, a hybrid of a giant spider and some sort of mutated insect, emerged from the swamp biome, roaring its challenge. It was clearly a monster of the week, a true terror, spitting corrosive venom and tearing through the forest with ease. "That's it," Wilson declared, donning his helmet. "Time for Zord construction. Wickerbottom, where are we on the gargantuan Nat schematics?" Weeks turned into a flurry of frantic activity. The Ranger Nexus hummed constantly. They managed to lure a Deerclops close enough to harvest its ICI for a cooling system, and even convinced a pack of beefalo to donate some particularly robust hides for external plating. Finally, with a roar of hydraulic pistons and a flash of light, the first Zord emerged. It was a magnificent beast, the Beefalo Megazord. Its primary form was a colossal, heavily armored beefalo, its horns tipped with glowing energy. Its legs were powerful hydraulic struts, its sides armored with polished stone and interwoven wood. Its eyes glowed with a fierce, resolute light. It wasn't just a machine, it was a fusion of the Constant's raw power and the morphing grid's technological might. Wolfgang, as the Black Ranger, took the helm. This is magnificent," he bellowed, his voice filled with childlike wonder and immense pride. The fight against the grotesque spider insect monster was epic. The Beefalo Megazord stomped through the swamp, deflecting venomous blasts with its energy shield. Wolfgang handled its brute force, charging and slamming into the creature, while Wickerbottom, from a smaller control panel at the base, provided strategic targeting data. Wilson, Willow, and WX-78, working in their Ranger forms, provided support, distracting the monster with their individual powers, exploiting weaknesses that Wickerbottom identified. The monster was powerful, but it was no match for the combined might of the Rangers and their Zord. With a final, crushing blow from the Beefalo Megazord's horn-mounted energy blade, the creature exploded into a shower of black goo and strange, glittering dust. Their base was now more than just a survival camp. It was the Morphin frontier. They built a defensive perimeter, powered by Morphin energy. Farms flourished, and though the Constant remained as dangerous as ever, they faced it now with courage and power. They had even started to integrate their Ranger tech with their everyday lives, using small Morphin energy cells to power their crockpots and refrigerators with remarkable efficiency. Wilson, the Red Ranger, patrolled the nearby biomes, ever vigilant, his scientific mind still dissecting the origins of this newfound power. Willow, the Pink Ranger, found a beautiful, destructive balance in her fiery powers, protecting their homestead with controlled explosions. Wolfgang, the Black Ranger, became a true powerhouse, his immense strength now harnessed for heroic deeds, his roars echoing in triumph rather than frustration. Wex 78, the Blue Ranger, reveled in his upgraded form, constantly seeking to integrate more Ranger tech into his system. Wickerbottom, the Yellow Ranger, was the strategic backbone, her vast knowledge guiding their every move, always prepared for the next wave of invaders. The Don't Starve world had thrown everything it had at them, and they had found a way to not just exist, but to thrive. The shadows still lurked, the whispers of insanity still echoed, but now, when a new, monstrous threat shimmered into existence from some unknown dimension, the Rangers of the Constant would be ready. Their Zords stood prepared, their suits pulsed with power, and their resolve was unbreakable. For this strange, modded reality, they were the heroes it didn't know it needed. And on the Morphin frontier, the battle for survival had just gotten a whole lot more colorful.